During today's video, we're going to talk about when you should start a YouTube channel, because I think a lot of people are held back by either not feeling prepared enough or knowing how to start a YouTube channel, or even worse, they're just fearful of putting themselves out there. So during today's video, we're going to talk about when you should start your channel. Alright, hello, welcome to Photography TV. Typically our channel is designed to educate, entertain, and inspire you around photography, but I started recently a documentary series looking behind my YouTube channel, talking about what goes into it, what's the mindset going into it, what the technical aspects of setting it up, so you can really follow along behind the scenes of a YouTube channel is exactly what this is. And during today's episode, we're going to talk about getting in the right mindset. When do you start your YouTube channel? I got a comment on one of my first videos on this documentary from a friend of mine, Kyle, indicated he's thinking about starting a YouTube channel, but I'm going to read his quote specifically. It's a longer comment, but it really comes down to this sentence. He says, "So I'd want to know how to balance being prepared, but also being courageous in putting myself out there." And I think that hits it to a T as to what typically holds people back from starting their YouTube channel. So before we dive into those two things, feeling prepared enough and knowing that you've got enough content to get it started, and then second, the fear factor, before we start about that, let's talk about, well, when should you start the channel? In my opinion, you should start your YouTube channel sooner than you think. Meaning, don't spend a significant amount of time putting all this thought and energy into it and then finally starting it, because what you're going to do is you're going to psych yourself out. You're going to spend way too much time preparing. The most important thing is start putting it out there. I first came up with the idea of starting this YouTube channel back in April of last year. I launched my first video in June, but then I just kind of went behind the scenes and did more and more prep and really started putting things out there consistently in September. So I'm kind of talking to myself here in hindsight of what I wish I would have done is just get it started earlier. Don't spend so much time. I did a significant amount of prep, a significant amount of work to kind of get things going behind the scenes before I really started putting it out there. And in hindsight, a lot of that prep and all that work was, a little premature, because so much of what I put time and energy into really hasn't come to fruition at this point. I should have just been putting videos out on a consistent basis earlier, as opposed to doing so much behind the scenes, which I could talk about a little bit later. But that's the first takeaway, is start it sooner than you think, because getting out there, getting experience is the most important thing, because you're going to learn as you go. And candidly, once people start watching the videos and you get comments, they're going to give you ideas of things you can do that are probably going to resonate even better than what you can come up with on your own. So start it sooner than you think is the first message. But now let's dive into those two comments that Kyle made as far as what's holding people back. And I think what his comment was is holding a lot of people back is, how do you feel prepared enough and how do you feel courageous enough? Let's start with the deeper of the two. Let's start with the fear factor, because I think that's probably what holds most people back. Kyle's exact comment was, how do you get courageous enough to put yourself out there? So here's my advice, and it's probably a little bit deeper and more philosophic than anything, but I always say you can fear failure or you can see success. It really comes down to that. If you fear failure, meaning you don't do something because you're afraid of how it may turn out, then you're never going to get anywhere. But if instead you don't focus on the failure, focus on the success, focus on what that dream could be, put your sights on that, and you will not have those fears. I don't think you do at all if you don't think about the fears. So put them aside, focus on success, not the failure. That's something I try to take to heart all the time, because I promise you I've been doing this now for, again, I started thinking about this in April of 2016. It's now February of 17. So I'm closing in on about 10 months of thinking and working on this. There has been countless times I have felt like a failure, and I could let that failure mentality just take over and shut things down, or, not be motivated anymore, but I try not to. I think of the success. It may be 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out before I actually taste that success, but I envision it. I'm thinking about what it will be like to have a successful YouTube channel and the way that that can change my life in the future, and I focus on that. If you focus on that, you won't have the failures. They won't hold you back. So that's the first and foremost, is see success. Don't fear failure. It's easier said than done. I get that. But you'll also find out once you do put yourself out there, People like that. People like vulnerability. So put yourself out there. If you're learning as you go, I mean, that's the whole point of this documentary series, is I'm going to share everything that goes in behind the scenes. And trust me, you'll see some of my failures, some of my struggles. I'm going to put all that on tape. So more to come on that. But you just have to kind of put yourself out there. And once you do, you'll find out it's not scary at all. So that's my first tip. Second, let's talk about how prepared you should be. Because you don't want to just start making videos without any sort of preparation, right? That probably is not a good recipe for success. But at the same point, as I mentioned earlier, don't over prepare. Don't put so much work into it that it actually analysis paralysis causes you to do nothing. Put a little bit of thought. So I'm going to show you actually what I did before launching the channel. You'll see where I probably did too much, but you'll also see maybe some ways to at least start thinking about it. So let's pull up a spreadsheet that I created. This is, again, almost a year ago now. So there's a lot of details on this page. I don't want you to focus on all of it. But if you just see what I came up with, my preparation was that I want to start a YouTube channel about photography. In the first documentary, I talked about why I came up with Photography TV as the name. It's designed to be a channel with different shows about photography. And so you can see here on this spreadsheet, the way I prepared is I came up with a few different shows, 4 different shows I wanted to start with. One is called Take Better Pictures. You can see there's a lot of different things that I could do within that series about just teaching people how to take better pictures. Another show I came up with is one that's called How Did You Get That Shot, where we just pick one photo and really dissect how to do it. Another one was Gear TV. And then another one was travel photography, more like a vlog about going around showing where I take pictures in different areas. So this was my prep. I basically came up with what were the different shows that I wanted to offer, and then I just challenged myself, what were the different videos that I'd want to make within it. So I would encourage you to do something like that. Think about what is the message that you want to have with your channel. That you do want to put that into it. What's the value you're going to bring with your channel? If you can come up with, you don't need a significant list, because what I'm going to show you is this list of these 4 different shows. I probably came up with about 80 or 100 different video ideas before I ever got started, which is way more than I actually needed. I would say if you can come up with 10 to 20 good video ideas to get you started that all tie into a purpose or a value of your channel, then you're ready to go, in my opinion. So at least have the idea of what your channel is going to be, come up with 10 or 20 different videos, and that's going to be enough. Because what you're going to see here, that was my initial thought. But take a look here, and this is all of the videos that I've launched thus far. And you can see in green are the videos that are live. They're already out on the channel. Yellow is kind of still in editing, close to being ready mode. If it's white, I haven't done it yet. So this was 10 months ago. I created this spreadsheet, and you can see all the videos that I still haven't had a chance to do, meaning I put way too much thought into it 10 months ago, and I still haven't been able to execute on it. Whereas if I would have started with 10, get those going, you'll always have ideas. In fact, I keep adding and adding to this, but you always want to start somewhere, but don't feel like you have to prepare a year's worth of videos before you get started. Just think 10, 20 videos ahead. That's going to give you plenty to get started. And probably the last tip here is the series on my channel that has been the most successful are my interviews. I pull them up here on my YouTube. You can see the amount of views that they have. These are by far my most successful videos. I didn't come up with this idea until about 3 months after starting the YouTube channel. I started doing interviews with people, and those are my best videos. So had I just sat back and kept trying to think about things, I may not have ever even gotten to the point of starting those interviews. That came up after the fact. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of what it takes to get over that mindset of starting the channel. I'd say if fear is holding you back, don't let it. Put yourself out there. You'll find out there's nothing really to be fearful of, because it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. People are very supportive. Even if there are haters out there, let them roll off the back. Let them roll off your back, because there's no reason to let anyone hold you back in that regards. Don't fear failure. See success. Come up with what your dream is. Chase it. All sights on that. And then lastly, as far as preparation, come up with what the theme of your channel will be, what value it brings to viewers. And if you can come up with 10, 20 different ideas, you're ready to go. So get started. The sooner you get started, the better. I promise you that, because you learn as you go. So thanks for watching this documentary episode of behind the scenes of starting a YouTube channel. Hopefully that gives you some ideas to start your own, and subscribe to follow along, because I'm going to put a lot more documentary videos up showing what